Yo guys, Mike for Sim Racing 604, and say hello for the first time to my MOZA Racing R3 bundle, or what you're seeing here, of course, is the wheel and wheelbase included with the R3 bundle. So this is MOZA Racing's newest budget level entry, and it comes in, the target price, I think they're going for about $400 US. The MSRP we were cited, they literally said around $399 US. So hopefully it'll come in right around that figure, and it is notable for many things, not least that it is console compatible. Yes, it's the feature we've been asking for perhaps the most from MOZA, and that is console compatibility. We finally have it. This thing is Xbox compatible, which is very exciting for those on Xbox, of course, but even for PC users who might one day want to get into console racing, this could be something significant. So, what are the specs? Well, again, $399 US for the bundle. That includes the SRP light pedals, I believe they're calling it the R3 wheelbase, and the slightly modified ES wheel. You may have seen my review or one of the many other great reviews. Sorry, I don't mean to put mine in the category of great, but you know what I'm saying. Many other reviews that were done by people of the ES wheel. It's a slightly modified version of that. It's MOZA's lowest end wheel, and they actually went even lower with this. They got rid of the leather or pleather wrapping and have just gone with kind of a Duramold coating on this. But it's also, you can tell it apart visually because there is an Xbox logo instead of a start button on the wheel. But otherwise, very, very similar to the ES wheel. It's kind of a D shape. The bottom is flattened, but not for very long. I have more dramatic D-shaped wheels, that's for sure. And then behind it, the wheelbase. So this comes in, they call it the R3, but it comes in at 3.9 Newton meters of torque. So it could have possibly been called the R4. I think in the interest of marketing, I probably would have pushed for that had I been an employee at MOZA. But they did go with R3, and again, 3.9 peak torque, 3.9 Newton meters of peak torque in this wheelbase. So this is their lowest offering, and in fact, I think it's probably the lowest peak torque rating of any direct drive offering on the market. I can't think of anything that comes in lower than 4 Newton meters. So breaking new ground there as well. So the question is a DD motor worth it at 3.9 Newton meters, since you're getting down into the range where belt drive and gear drive wheels usually reside? And I can say emphatically, without qualification, yes. This thing punches well above its weight. It destroys anything I have tried in the belt drive or gear drive market, including the Thrustmaster TGT2, which comes in, I guess, close to double, well, at least, you know, probably 80% more torque. I can't remember the exact peak torque figure of the TGT2, but it is belt drive, and I would take this over that any day. So, yeah, it just, the response is incredible. I think the R12 from MOZA is probably the best wheelbase on the market right now in consideration to value. I think what you get out of the R12 is phenomenal. It's what I've stuck with. I haven't gone back to anything else once I tried the R12, and I'm pretty sure much of the technology, much of the force feedback technology has gone into this R3 as well. It's got similar characteristics in terms of its performance, and that R12 at 12 Newton meters, quite frankly, it performs better than any other wheelbases. I have a couple of wheelbases that come in at slightly higher values, and one at significantly a higher value, but still I choose the R12 because it just feels phenomenal. I think whatever they have at play inside that wheelbase that's generating that force feedback is better than their R9. It's better than their R21 in terms of, you know, output versus peak torque rating. So they've just done an outstanding job with that R12, and as I say, I think a lot of the technology has carried forward into this R3, so it performs really, really nicely. Now, at $400 for this bundle, The obvious competitor is going to be Fanatec. Fanatec now has a $400 direct drive offering, and that is their CSL DD with the WRC wheel and the CSL pedals. And which one would I choose? I'll get into it more when I do a full review of this. Right now I can't review this wheelbase. Reason being is I've been working with MOZA trying to get it to connect to the Pit House software. For some reason it works great in game, it feels phenomenal, but it will not connect to the Pit House software, so I can't do any firmware updates on this R3. So unfortunately I'm stuck in a place where I might be using an outdated firmware, and it doesn't feel right to do a review at this point. So for now I'm just going to hold off on the proper review and just give you my initial impressions of it. But again, I'll get into it more when I do that review in terms of the Fanatec versus MOZA. But I think it's going to be a very, very close comparison, and there's positives and negatives about each, of course. The Fanatec wheel lineup is much bigger, much broader than is MOZA's, but I've heard that it's very difficult to get your hands on Fanatec gear these days. I don't know if that's improved, but so many people have reached out to me and said, you know, I can't get a Fanatec wheel for another 6 months. Do you recommend MOZA? So MOZA will have an advantage there because I think it's more readily available. I think their production numbers are better. And then, yeah, just kind of dollar for dollar, you know, head to head, would I go with the CSL DD or this R3? It's very close. It's closer than I thought it would be, because, you know, you might say, well, that's only 1.1 Newton meters of torque difference. That's not that much. And I would agree with you if we were going from 14 to 15 or something like that. But when we're going from 4 to 5, that means a 20% difference, or 25% difference actually, in peak torque between the two wheelbases. So significantly more torque by comparison in the CSL DD versus this R3. So that difference is not insignificant. However, I would say that they're just about on par in terms of performance. And there's still some level of muddiness. I'm not saying this R3, you know, because it outperforms all the belt and gear drive wheels, that it's going to hang with the big boys in the direct drive space. It's not. There's still some muddiness. There's just only so much you can do with it with such a low peak torque rating. There's going to be some vagueness. It's not going to be able to give you that detail. You know, the motor's not going to react as fast as with like a, you know, 20 Newton meter motor or something like that, or even a 10 or a 12 Newton meter. There is a perceptible difference between the two. So I don't want to give the impression that this is everything that, you know, those like Thrustmaster T818 or the Logitech G Pro, or, you know, MOZA R9, CSL DD with the boost kit. This is not that. This is a step below that, but the difference really isn't as huge as I thought it might be. And yeah, it just performs really well. And in my opinion, other than that $400 Fanatec bundle, it's just a no-brainer. I don't know of anything close to this price point, pardon me, that performs this well. It feels phenomenal. I have all the curb detail. I can feel the tires loading up. I can feel the bouncing of the car on this uneven terrain. It's just a phenomenal performing wheel. As I say, there is some vagueness. There's some limitations to it just by dint of it being, you know, torque limited, peak torque limited. But that's to be expected. And I think for $400, I think you'll be really hard pressed to find anything even close to this level. So incredible job by MOZA. I think they've really nailed this, and I'll get into my full review hopefully next week once I can speak to MOZA a bit more and get things sorted out. But for now, I'll just summarize my thoughts by saying that this is performing really well, and the level of detail is very impressive. I think the price point is impressive. Something else to consider is that $400 price point does include a table clamp, and I think in the case of the Fanatec bundle with the CSL DD and the WRC wheel and the CSL pedals, I think you would have to pay extra for the table clamp. So if the table clamp is a consideration for you and you're doing a head-to-head comparison and both are available and you're not worried about upgrade wheels and blah, and you're just doing a direct head-to-head comparison, I would say give consideration to the table clamp. Is the table clamp going to matter to you? Because if so, then you Come on, Mercedes. I'm in a Mercedes. You got to move. It's the polite Mercedes thing to do. Yeah, I just think if that's going to be a consideration for you, if you're going to have to buy the table clamp anyway, do give consideration to the MOZA including that. But yeah, I quite frankly be happy with either bundle. But yeah, like I said, I'll be back with the full review very soon. These are my initial impressions, and just really, really good. So happy with this. If you guys, I doubt you can see it, but I can fit that whole R3 wheelbase in my hand. It's like the size of a softball. It's incredible how small they've made it, and yet it packs a mighty punch. There's a whole lot of details here. This is not the level of torque that's going to, rip the wheel out of your hands when you hit a wall or anything like that. But the detail is phenomenal, and yeah, I'm running it at 95%, and I've been running for how long now? Maybe 10-15 minutes, I would guess. And yeah, it's warm to the touch, but not hot. I had somebody reach out and say they had heard about overheating issues with MOZA. I am not aware of such issues. Maybe that is a thing, but it's never been an issue for me. As hard as I ran my R5, R9, or R12, especially the R12, I've done some quite long races and quite taxing days with that R12, and yeah, no issues for me. So this R3, yeah, like it's warm. It's certainly, you can tell it's in use, but certainly not hot. And that's running at 95% torque. So that is the one thing to know about this. In order to get the level of detail that I've, come to expect, or some close approximation of the level of detail I expect from my R12, I do have to push this one pretty hard. It's sitting at 95% peak out, but whereas I run the R12 closer to like 40%, if I'm not mistaken, 45%. Hope I wrote that down when I go back to R12. But anyway, yeah, that's just one consideration, is that you do have to push it quite hard to get this level of detail. But when you do, boy, does it pay off. This thing just feels really, really great. As I said, I probably said that about 10 times in this video, but just overall very impressed with what MOZA has been able to do with this R3 bundle. And again, the first sort of foray, the opening salvo into the console world. Let's hope that PlayStation is next. I would love to see a MOZA offering that I can play Gran Turismo with. I think that would be fantastic. But for now, we have Xbox, so it's a good move by MOZA, definitely. We're on the cusp of a new Forza Motorsport game coming out, and yeah, so this might be a big seller for them. I think it's due to ship at the end of September, so could be right on time for a lot of people. Forza is going to sell millions and millions of copies, no matter what us sim racers, us sim purists, us elitists, those of us that turn our nose up at common racing games, no matter what we say about Forza Motorsport, it will outsell our favorite sim by a lot, let's face it. And so with that, some percentage of people are going to be shopping for a new wheel offering, and I think this might be a good one for a lot of people. Very simple to set up and comes with everything you need, and I'm very happy with it. So thank you to MOZA for sending me this for review. I'm going to target probably having things resolved with MOZA and getting the firmware updated probably the week before Labor Day. So somewhere around Labor Day, I hope to have, or before, I hope to have the review done. It's already half done. I've done the unboxing, just can't fully put this thing through its paces until that time. But even in the non-updated bone stock, not software tuned version, it feels phenomenal. And yeah, I think I'm done. It's getting very orange out here at Mugello, which tells me the sun is going down. And when the sun goes down, old guys like me have to get to bed. So that is what I will do. And I hope everyone has a great day. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you again to MOZA for sending me this for a review. And I will be back with more of the R3 probably next week. Thanks for watching.